Shemel Shai. Yahweh Shemel Shai. Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shai.
Shah La War.
Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring thy sons from far, their silver and their gold with them, unto the name of the Lord thy God, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified thee. And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish, yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. The glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, and the box together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary. And I will make the place of my feet glorious. The sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee. And all they that despised thee shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy feet, and they shall call thee the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Whereas thou hast been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through thee, I will make thee an eternal excellency, a joy of many generations. Thou shalt also suck the milk of the Gentiles, and shalt suck the breast of kings. And thou shalt know that I, the Lord, am thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. For brass I will bring gold, and for iron I will bring silver, and for wood brass, and for stones iron. I will also make thy officers peace, and thine exactors righteousness. Violence shall no more be heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders. But thou shalt call thy walls salvation, and thy gates praise. The sun shall be no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee. But the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and thy God thy glory.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds. In the name of Yahweh Shem Shai, pushing to get up out of there. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Shem Shai. All right, and what I want to get into today, is dealing with, the big illusion. Americans are the last to know, because matter of fact, let me start this precept and then expound, from there. Let's get this in the book of Revelation chapter 20 and verse 7, and this goes into the rebirth, of America, of Esau's empire, which, will lead to America being the centerpiece of this Edomite empire that runs the earth, okay? Now, when you go to Revelation chapter 20 and verse 7, it says that when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, okay? So as the 1,000 years, when it goes into this 1,000 years, is speaking of what they call the Middle Ages, or most, known as the Dark Ages. Okay, now Esau, he demonizes those times, as if nothing was happening. The earth was stagnant. All right, when it was the complete opposite. Because Jake was in power. Now Jake, wasn't in complete order. Jake was going off according to the scriptures, but Jake was in power. You had flourishing empires. Jake was ruling in Europe. All right, all those monarchs of Europe. Those houses were started by Jake. Those, different dynasties of Europe. Go back to Jake. The Scots, the British. You know, Jake was ruling, the Eastern Roman Empire because the Western Roman Empire, which was Esau, fell. Okay, but you still had, what they call the Byzantine Empire to go on another 1,000 years. Okay, then you will have, even Jake ruling in Russia. The original czars. All they go back to Jake. You know, so for that 1,000 years, you had Jake, in power. Okay, over there in what they call the Eastern Hemisphere. Okay, and Jake, you know, eventually fell. The devils were allowed to come back into power. The big power moves is when, the devils took down, the Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Turks, which were Edomites, that was into Islam. Okay, and then you had, these Edomite, that took on the banner of Christianity, which by then it was extremely watered down and pagan. Okay, but you had Granada fall, the Moors fell, in Spain. All right, to Queen Isabella, okay, and King Ferdinand, okay, which was a Christian monarchy. And these Edomites that came back into power, so the devil, he was allowed to come back into power after 1,000 years. Okay, what you call the Renaissance. He took over, Europe. Okay, and from Europe he would branch out to the new worlds, under the banner of the Spanish, the French, the Portuguese, and the British. And right, and they will conquer. British set up, colonies over here in America, what you call the 13 colonies. You see, and then you will get, Central South America, and America being that powerhouse, that will emerge out of these Edomite governments. Okay, now when you go here to verse 8, it says it's like, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. So this devil's rulership was based on deception, and America was one of the biggest magic tricks the earth has ever seen. America was always an illusion of freedom, an illusion of being for the people. Okay, and this man, he deceived the four quarters of the earth because everyone took on this illusion dealing with America, man. America was looked at as a land of opportunity at one time. Okay, and these elites, they allowed, prosperity to a degree. Okay, because you need trust to pull off the magic trick, man. Okay, so it says it shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. So this devil has everyone deceived. Christianity was a major part of that deception. Okay, him being this, humanitarian, and him being the nation that civilizes the earth from, all the savages and barbarians. Okay, the great so-called white man, the civil, the nation that civilized the earth. And it's all deception, man. His high IQ, he's just superior. His system of, banking economy, fractional banking, which is all deception, man. Okay, everything about this man's rulership, all these systems are set up, are systems of deceptions. Okay, all these belief systems that the devil has in the earth, man, it's all based off deception, man, and it's the most potent here. Okay, deception is the most potent right here in America, man. That's why entitled Americans are the last to know about this illusion of freedom, this illusion of democracy. Okay, this illusion of liberty and equality. Okay, equal opportunity. It's an illusion of the America being, the moral, police of the earth, the fighters of justice throughout the world. The the rest of the world has been known, okay, what America was about. Americans are the last one to know because now their government, okay, is beginning to terrorize them more. It's becoming more overtly. See, they've dealt with these outside nations overtly. That they've been covertly, which is secretive. They've been secretly, suppressing, oppressing, and destroying the American public. Mainly through psyops and their health. Okay, but overtly, openly, he's been hammering these other nations, man, economically and militarily, man. Okay, well, let's read verse 8 again. It says, "It shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, which is Russia, to gather them to battle, the number whom is the sand of the sea." So the Lord summed up this man's rise to power and his fall in two precepts. Okay, he will have a renaissance after that 1,000 years of the dark ages of the Lord allowing Jake, to rule. Okay, and then he will establish his renaissance. All right, and then eventually, he will go forth to deceive the nations. Okay, revive Rome and the earth again. The Roman Empire, the Greco-Roman, empire will be revived. During all this deception. Okay, and all roads will lead to a war with Russia, this is going to be the war that's going to remove this man from power. Because in the midst of this war, Yahweh Shai is going to intervene. You see? So the scripture sums this man's rulership up in two precepts. Okay? His ass is going to be out of here, man. Now, what I want to get, this word illusion. Because remember, America is the biggest magic trick ever pulled in the earth. Okay? And you still have people, that have hope in this illusion. They always, think that they're just one president away, okay, from utopia and things being, what America was supposed to be. Well, the thing is, America is exactly what it's supposed to be. Okay, it's a platform for the elites to try to achieve global domination. They use America to weaken the nation through debt and through military. Okay, so they can get ready to what? Roll out a new world order. Okay, so they use America to mold these nations to the liking of the elites. Okay, now they want to roll out a new world order, and to do that, they have to weaken America. Okay, America, was built up too powerful to fit into, this scheme of a new world order. Okay, so now we're seeing America being dismantled. Okay, so you go into the word illusion, it goes into a mockery, a scorning, or derision. It says an act of deception, deceptive appearance. Okay, so America was always meant to be for the people. It was always meant to look like liberty. Okay, it was always meant to look like that, man. But remember, America was established, by witches and warlocks, man. The Illuminati was here day one, okay, of the birth of America. Okay, you had the birth of the Illuminati, 1776. Okay, in May 1st, you had the birth of America, July 4th, 1776, man. Okay, now they did have to gain control, the elites, through these secret societies. Okay, they did have to, rise up, and corrupt. They did have to corrupt, America to being what it is today. That took, some time to get it as corrupt as it is now. Okay, But from its beginning, the seed of corruption was always there. You know, America was, a little more authentic. Okay, it was more authentic back then than it is now. But corruption was always there. Okay, going back to its inception. Okay, because even the Fed. When people think of the Fed, they think of that being a American-owned bank. No, the Fed is a private-owned bank. Okay, and these devils, when you go into it, America, they won their independence, from the crown of Britain. Okay, and then there was another war, 1812. All right, with America and Britain, and America won that war as well, but then it put the American government in debt. Okay, and then they had to start getting loans from the elites. Okay, so they won, the actual fighting of war. Okay, but they lost the economy of America. They began, all right, them to lose the economy of America because it wasn't an overnight thing. Okay, well, I'm saying all that to say this: America was always, a deception, a deceptive appearance, a delusion of the mind. Okay, the land of opportunity. When this land was stolen, you see, they labeled this the land of opportunity, and it was a stolen land. Okay, and they're constantly making mockery. Okay, of the northern tribes, the Gad and Reuben. Okay, Issachar, because Southwest America, was once a part of Mexico. Okay, so they mocked the people that they stole it from, and then they mocked, all right, the people that believe in the deception and the illusion of America, man. This American dream. Okay, it says a mocking, a gesture, okay, a mock it to literally play with. Okay, and the least have been playing with you people the whole time. Okay, all these, different sayings, equality and land of liberty and all these different sayings and jargons. The least have been playing with you the whole time. They put the New World Order on back of the dollar. Okay, they put the agenda on back of the dollar, man. Okay, so that lets you know that these devils have been playing they've been playing in your face the whole time, and now it's just more out in the open. They're playing in your face, man. Okay, but this place has always been an illusion. Okay, it's always been an illusion. It's been a project. Okay, and the bankers use this place to enchant the nations, all right, and to weaken the nations, keep them in debt. Okay, and they use the American military as a strike team to keep these nations in line. Okay, the American military is nothing but, all right, the most organized mercenaries that the elites have. Okay, and now they need their force broken down because they're rolling out a new system. Okay, and you Americans are the last to find out it was all an illusion the whole time. You see? So let's go from here. All right. Matter of fact, let me get there. All right. Let's just get there real quick. I can never remember this by heart. I know El Apostle Bar, the brother El Kazak, El Yashawama, they always remember this by heart. I gotta look it up. Maybe the stick one these days. All right, so this is on real quick. Let me pull this up. And then we'll go to the video. Well, let's pull this up. All right, it says the Latin phrase on the back of the dollar bill is Novus Ordo Seclorum. All right, Nouveaux Order Seculaire, meaning new order of the ages. Okay, so the America was just a platform for these elites to begin to set up a one world order. Okay, it says a common mistranslation by conspiracy theories. Okay, which is the same thing. They trying to, Google and chat be trying to dress it up. It's the same thing. Okay, new order of the ages, man. Okay, it says meaning new order of the ages, a new order of the centuries. Okay, you see that? Significant. It marks the beginning of the American era with the pyramids date 1776 representing this start. Okay, so America's birth conception was 1776. Okay, so they had this on the dollar in 1776, letting you know what the play was the whole time. Okay, and they try to cover it up and dress it up like it don't mean that. It's exactly what it means, man. Okay, they'll say the Illuminati was officially birthed May 1st, 1776. America became a country July 4th, 1776, man. Okay, and even the scriptures. Let's get this. Let's go here to the book of Isaiah chapter 14. Let's go. This Isaiah 14. Isaiah 47. Salakis. Isaiah 47. Okay, because it tells you about Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, which is America. Okay. In fact, let's read Isaiah 47:1. It says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate," man. Okay, so the virgin daughter of Babylon is America. Okay, America, is the personification, all right, of the Neo and the ancient Babylonian Empire. Okay, they call it a virgin daughter because America has never been, penetrated with foreign war. Okay, its government has never, been toppled by, foreign, all right, governments, man, foreign militaries. You see, but this place is finna get penetrated with those missiles, man. That's gonna be the overthrow. It said there is no throne or no rulership. Okay, a position of power. There's no more position of power of America, man. America's being phased out, and it's the Lord that's doing it. The elites got their plans, but see, the Lord got bigger plans. Okay, He got more destructive plans for America. All right, it says, "O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate," man. O daughter of the Chaldeans. Those Chaldeans goes back to those Babylonian, all right, Magi's. Okay, the ruling class of the Babylonian Empire, the elites of the Babylonian Empire. They ruled, okay, with left hand magic, astrology. The Chaldeans were, infamous for their interpretation of, the heavens, the moon, the stars. Okay, so I want to jump down. Let me see. Yeah, I'll start here in 8. It said, "Therefore, hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures." Okay, that's one thing that America, it was able to pamper its citizens, with different pleasures and convenience because it enjoyed the status of being, the elite first world country in the earth due to the American dollar being the world reserve currency and the purchasing power of the dollar. Okay. So America, was able to give its citizens cheap pleasure, but no real power. Okay. You can, party and kick it. Okay. Well, if you ever try to achieve, any type of, true power or autonomy, okay, that wasn't happening, man. Okay. And they concentrated, the true power amongst a few families. Even today, all right, most of the wealth of America is amongst a small percent. Okay, while the rest are on a rat race for the crumbs. Okay, but America was so abundant, it was able to just print and create wealth out of nothing. Okay, that people, for a long time was always able to enjoy, these cheap pleasures. Okay, they can enjoy themselves for cheap. It didn't cost much to have a night out and a few drinks. Okay, so you keep reading. It says that says in thy heart, I am none else. I am and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. Okay, and that's the spirit of America, man. From the government to the people. This has been the sentiment of America. The one and only. There's nothing like this. The one, this elite country that stands out beyond the rest. Okay. The American military is used to going abroad and fighting wars. Okay. And making other nations women widows. Okay. And fatherless. Okay. America has enjoyed going to war without that many casualties, man, since World War II. They've been able to go to war without a lot of casualties, man. Okay, well, see, this is going to change because the Lord's going to call these nations to send something over here. Okay, they're going to send a few messages to America that's going to empty this bitch out. That's going to leave America childless, man. Because a land is like the mother, your nurturer. Okay, so the land of America is going to be childless, man. It's going to be like a widow. Verse 9 said, but these two things shall come to thee in a moment and one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection, and the multitude of thy sorceries. All right, for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. Okay, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments, man. Okay, so this place was founded on sorcery and enchantments. All right, but they pushed this place to be, just this Bible believing, conservative. That's why you have this, they're trying to revive this Edomite, white nationalist movement. Like America just always been this wholesome, okay, by the book, by the Bible, nation. Nah, man, this place was founded on witchcraft, man. Okay, verse 10 said, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge have perverted thee, and thou hast said in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. Okay, so these devils, beginning with the elites, what they've been able to do in America, they develop a God complex, man. Okay, and a lot of people in America, they have this God complex about themselves, man. There's an aura of pride in America. Okay, they're just off the charts, man. Okay, and Americans don't care about nothing. It's like America is the only thing that matters on the earth. Okay, America's worldview is what's happening in America, man. Okay, and they don't care what type of wickedness the American government and military is doing, as long as they win. Okay, as long as the American party don't stop. But we see things are coming to a screeching halt. Okay, and the missiles just going to come and finish this place off. Okay, it said, therefore shall evil come upon thee, that thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. You know, because America is running into these evil times. People have no idea what lies ahead, how bad it's going to be here in America, man. The Lord has an evil time prepared just for America, and it's going to be the worst time ever since the earth was. Okay, and America going to feel the brunt of that, man. Okay, because America has been a haven of wickedness, man. You see? So let's go Isaiah, and this is the point, Isaiah 47:12. Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorcery, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be, thou shalt be able to profit. If so be, thou mayest prevail. Okay? So this place has labored with sorcery from its youth, from its inception. Okay? It was founded on witchcraft. You see? This place was always meant to be exactly what it is. Okay? The mother of harlots, the abominations of the earth, a haven of wickedness. Okay? A way to keep nations in debt. Okay? Through this financial system. You know, the global economy is American dominated, and by the American military, man, which has been the hammer of the earth. Okay, but now what are we seeing? Major resistance. Okay, the Most High done created a better hammer. All right, with the alliance of Russia, China, Iran. You know, and then ultimately Yahushua coming to clear out everything. You know, you can't say that enough. So let's go here. I want to get this video. This the guy. It's our guy Shaheed Bosley. You know, we tap in with him from every now and then. But yeah, let's play this. Okay, a few minutes. You know, he's gonna give his spiel. Okay.
There's a lot of Americans now we see online, understandably, feeling angry, feeling anxious, feeling terrified, and so forth. And they're calling for help. They're calling for direction. They're asking for direction. They're tired, they're scared, they're fed up, and they want a solution. You know, they want a way out. They want the tyrannical madness in their country to come to an end. Mind you, this is just 1 year in to the Trump administration. Just 1 year in. Now, I say this not because I accept the idea that any of this actually started under the Trump administration or because of the Trump administration, but because most of the people that you see online who are expressing their outrage and expressing their despair, that's what they think. They think so. So after just 1 year of this, you're at your wit's end. Well, how do you think that looks? And how do you think that sounds to all of America's global victims? How do you think it sounds to the Palestinians? How do you think it sounds to the Afghanis, to the Iraqis, to the Libyans, to the Mexicans, to the Nicaraguans, to the Salvadorans, to the Vietnamese? I'm just saying this for perspective, just for you to have some perspective. What you inflicted on people all around the world was far worse, far more violent, far more intense, and you did it for far longer. 10, 20, 50, 100 times longer, and 10,000 times worse. Just consider that. I'm saying just consider it, just reflect on that, because it's real, and it should give you some perspective, honestly. I mean, I appreciate your anger, I appreciate your panic, but I need to be completely honest with you. I need to be completely honest with you about several things that you may find difficult to hear. First of all, you need to understand your actual position. You need to understand your actual position. You're not suffering from a broken system. You're living under your system, operating perfectly normally, completely normally. What you're experiencing is not a deviation from so-called American democracy. It's what American democracy actually is and always has been. The difference now is that the violence, the coercion, and the cruelty that America has always exported that globally. Now it's becoming slightly more visible domestically. And you're finally seeing what the rest of the world has experienced from America for generations. So don't overlook this. Don't be dismissive about this reality, because it's very informative. The nature of your country, of your society, of your system has been viciously demonstrated to the rest of the world for a very long time. Your victims internationally have known and have understood you better than you ever understood yourselves. That's the truth. And yes, that includes the members of the global majority who live inside your country, you know, the ones who you call minorities, Africans, Asians, Muslims, so-called Latinos. The global majority has always known how your system actually is, how it truly operates, whether they live in the lands of their origin or they live inside your borders. And obviously, the indigenous people of America have never not known the reality of America's so-called democracy. So first of all, like I said, don't fool yourself into thinking that your system has broken. And don't fool yourself into thinking that it has changed for the worse. This is how it has always been. Wallahi, this is how it has always been. And the only thing that has modified is maybe perhaps that it is less racially discriminatory about who they oppress. So if you want to call that broken, or you want to say that it's worse now than it was before, then all you're actually saying is that it was better when it was only violent and only vicious on a strictly racial basis, when it was only cruel and savage to innocent people in faraway places, which means that you don't actually have a problem with that. You don't have a problem with the cruelty and the savagery. You don't have a problem with the brutality in principle.
And they showed that with Venezuela, you know, as the American public, you know, celebrated, you know, savagery, you know, which, you know, a lot of things, you know, was set up and, okay. But remember, Maduro just one of many. Okay, they do this all the time. Okay, they just made, you know, a big deal out of this one. Okay, for the sake of trying to show strength on the global stage. Okay, but the reaction, you know, whether it was completely staged, partly staged, or whatever, you know, we can always, you know, go into it. Okay, but the reaction of the people just shows you that they're okay with their government going to rape, rob, and murder, going to rape, rob, and murder, Salaki. Okay? They're okay with their government being criminals as long as they win. Okay? As long as they are here dominating weaker nations and bullying and taking resources, as long as the American illusion, you know, can continue on, they're okay with it. You see, and as you Edomites, you know, that are starting to scream the loudest because you've enjoyed Edomite privilege for a long time. Okay? You've enjoyed, you know, more of the crumbs from the table of the least for a long time. And now it's coming to an end, you know, because everything is going into reset. Okay? And the way that they've, you know, been brutal, America has brutalized these other nations. Now you're seeing, okay, that the government is unleashing, okay, brutal force on citizens now. Okay? So you Americans are the last one to truly know the nature of America. Okay? You're the last people to know about the deception, the lies, and the true nature of America. All right, is the American people. Okay, and they're going to find out about their government in a very brutal fashion. Because the government has hated you for a long time. There's food that's allowed in America that's not allowed anywhere else. Okay, there's certain, you know, additives and, you know, so-called, you know, preservatives that they allow in American food supply that's not allowed anywhere else because they've been at a covert war with you. You know, covert goes into a secretive, not out in the open. Okay, so they've been at a covert war with America, especially the tribes, and they never stop warring with the tribes. You know, like I say, these drugs and all that was chemical warfare for the tribes. Okay, you know, the one parent household that was systematic mainly for the tribes to destroy the tribes. You see, and you, the rest of you Americans, all right, you was affected by things that was targeted at the tribes, but then, you know, these devils have cranked up, you know, targeting you. Okay, now it's an outcry. But you American Edomites, okay, you're gonna cry last and you're gonna cry the loudest, man. Okay, because you're finna be in misery as well. Okay, Jacob's trouble is Esau's trouble too, you Edomites. So let's play some more.
You just want that brutality to always be explicitly racist and explicitly elsewhere. In other words, you disapprove of Leopold cutting off Belgian hands, but you don't disapprove of him cutting off Congolese hands. ICE isn't an aberration. The deportations are not a deviation. The camps are not a glitch in your system. This is the system. This is what America does. Trump isn't hijacking your country. He's just doing what American presidents have always done. You just didn't see it. He's maybe doing it with a little bit lower quality public relations management, but Obama deported more people than any president before him. Biden continued building Trump's wall. The differences are just aesthetics. There's no difference in substance between this party or that party. Understand this. I mean, you could easily imagine Trump's belligerence actually being nothing but an opening gambit of the power structure. Think about it. You hype up the Nazis, you hype up the fascist signaling, so that then you can stage a coup to topple Trump and his administration, and then you could completely suspend the Constitution, cancel elections, seize total control, and install a supremely fascist government while depicting that as a counter-fascist rescue operation, and everyone would cheer for you. Everyone would applaud. Meanwhile, everything proceeds as before, but without the backlash. Your broken system has functioned exactly as designed for 250 years, concentrating wealth upwards, projecting violence outwards, and maintaining domestic control through a combination of material comfort for just enough people, just the right class of people, and spectacular violence against anyone who resists or anyone who exists outside the protected categories. What's happening now isn't the system breaking down. It's you finally seeing it clearly, at least some of you. Some of you are seeing it clearly now for what it is. Actually coming to terms with this should recalibrate your reaction to what's going on. Otherwise, there's still a lot more that you're denying rather than recognizing, because you don't need a leader. You don't need instructions. You need a complete ideological reorientation, wallahi. You know, I've seen Americans online talking about they need a leader. They need a leader to give them a strategy within the existing framework of American society. That's exactly backwards. What you need is to completely abandon the intellectual and the moral framework that brought you to this point. You understand me? You need to decolonize your mind before you can effectively resist anything. You don't even know what you're resisting. Otherwise, you're not trying to change. You're just trying to avoid the consequences of what you have always approved, of what you still approve, if we're being honest. You understand you're not actually recognizing the reality when you only are disavowing or trying to distance yourself from the consequences, but you're still upholding the utterly deceitful narratives about your society and about your culture and about your system. You understand me? You're acting like consequences are nothing but a coincidence, because you've been programmed with a series of false premises that you need to get over. A premise like that America is fundamentally good and it only occasionally makes mistakes. This is patently false. It's systematic. You believe that the Constitution is some sort of a sacred document representing universal values. That's false. You believe that American institutions can be reformed to serve justice. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You can't take an electric chair and convert it into a life support system. You think that your vote matters in determining the direction of power. Not even slightly. Not even slightly. You think that you live in a society that's governed by law rather than by force? No. Only the most privileged people in your society can still tell themselves that blatant lie. Only the most privileged in your society could possibly believe that. You believe that your country's violence abroad is somehow separate from the conditions at home? I mean, tell me how. Tell me how. You think that a nation can have a split personality? You think that you just get married to Dr. Jekyll and you never have to deal with Mr. Hyde? You think that you can be a good person while maintaining complicity in a fundamentally evil system? That's the peak, that's the pinnacle of cognitive dissonance. And it's an insult to even the concept of what being a good person is. Every single one of these premises is false. Every single one of these premises is false. And until you fully internalize that they are false, not theoretically, not as an intellectual exercise, but as a lived reality that reshapes how you see everything, well, then you're never going to be able to effectively resist anything because you're still going to be operating from within the logic of the system itself. You do not have a virtuous system. You don't have a virtuous system that you have to try to reclaim and try to recover and try to salvage. You never had a virtuous system. You never had a virtuous culture or a society that ever genuinely understood, much less valued virtue. That's a fact. And denying this is itself evidence that you still adhere to that anti-virtuous mentality. This is like asking, how do I convince my abusive partner to stop hitting me? This is what you're asking. The question itself reveals that you haven't yet accepted the fundamental nature of that relationship. Do you understand me? The answer isn't better communication. The answer isn't finding the right argument to convince your abusive partner. The answer is recognizing that the relationship itself is the problem. You don't have an abusive partner. You have an abuser. You understand? You're not in a relationship. You're in a crime scene. So, okay, if you are genuinely sincere,
Yeah, let's get a few pre-sales, man, because like I said, people, think there's some type of, one solution that's going to fix all when it comes to America. And see, the devil, he knows people are still want a solution, okay? And he's going to present that solution as the C-HIP, okay? This MOTB system, the digital system, he's going to present it as a solution, okay, to his wickedness, man. Okay, so the nigga, all right, whooping your ass, okay, is gonna give you a solution for him whooping your ass. It's crazy work, man. But this is deception of the devil, man. All right, and Esau, he gets off on people suffering, people starving, people being oppressed, people not being able to make it, man. People crying to him all the time. He gets off on that, man. Okay? And our people still trust in this system, okay, as if it's just going to magically correct itself, man. It don't need correction. It needs to be destroyed. That's why you go to the scriptures. The scriptures give you the solution. Jeremiah 51:8. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her, if so she may be healed. We will have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her. Let us go, everyone, into his own country, for her judgment reached unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. Man, it's over with. She can't be healed. Okay? It was never meant to be healed. It was never meant, okay, for this place to serve the people. All right? It was never about civil rights. It was never about, DEI. Okay? Never about inclusion, man. There's always been the elite class and everyone else, man. The wealth always trickle up. Okay? While the masses pay the bills for the country, man. Okay? The profit goes to the elites. The bills go to the citizens, man. You see? So now the only solution is the destruction of this place, man. Okay? That's the mindset we should be in. The scriptures go into the solution. All right, let's go here to Isaiah. And you still have our people, 2/3, okay, that still have some expectation and some type of hope. Okay? They fan off the prophets, they mock the prophets, they get on the internet, talk shit, and the same nigga that'll make a TikTok video about the prophets will be a nigga that go vote. And thinking that he making some major difference. You see? Thinking he just made a flex because he voted Republican. And this is why Jacob Trouble is the Lord showing his displeasure with our people that still trust in this system. Man, matter of fact, even before, let's go here. Let's get Isaiah 30. And 1, it says, woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, You know, because our people ignore the counsel of the prophets, you know, which is the counsel of the Lord. You see, the prophets have been raised up to come and give the counsel of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. We're telling you to hell with this place. It's over. This was never for us anyway. Okay, this is not our rest, man. We got something coming. We got a world to come that's forever, that's everlasting, in righteousness, man, in abundance. Okay, this is not for us, man. Everything about this place is against Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. It's against righteousness, man. You know, and as we mature in the faith, man, we grow to despise this place. The Lord is developing our perfect hatred for this place, man. Okay. So it said, woe to the rebellious children, said the Lord Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. They take counsel, but not of me, and they cover what they cover, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. You know, because each generation gets worse. Okay, and our people only get worse and worse throughout their lifetime, and then each generation gets worse, man. Okay, because the Lord is not dealing with the masses, okay, of our people, man. They just constantly getting worse in this system. Okay, this is what the system produces, and see, us as believers, what we have to understand when we look out, you know, people that's still in the world, and you know, they are a product of what this system produces, man. Okay, we talk about, you know, the young niggas, the modern woman. That is all a part. It's a system. America creates a factory. Okay, it's an assembly line of young niggas and thoughts and hoes and the modern woman. And, okay, this is just what it produces. This is what the system produces, man. Okay, if you go to a Nissan plant, it's gonna produce Nissans. Okay, America's a degenerate plant. Okay, it produces degenerates. Okay, on the assembly line, man. All right, it says the walk they walk to go down into Egypt and have not asked in my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh and to trust in the shadow. Okay, the shadow of Egypt, man. Okay, and our people, they look at this system and all they want to do is try to make tweaks to the system so they get a better deal out this system, man. You know, but they look to this system as a protection. Okay, they you know, they look to this system for provisions. Okay, they look at this system as how to be, how to live. So they trust because America has enjoyed strong military and strong economy for a long time. Okay, and our people trust in, you know, the comfort that this system has afforded them. You know, because you don't even have to be wealthy to be comfortable in America, man. Okay, and our people, they you know, especially, you know, we got government assistance. Okay, you know, they give these, you know, they just got to set up for Jake to be comfortable. You see, and our people trust in the comfort that this society brings, that this system brings. Okay, and they'll never call out the wickedness of this system, even if they do. Okay, they're still calling it out, trying to fix it within the system, man. And Jake don't know the depth of the wickedness. They don't know the source. They don't know it's the elites. They don't know it's Amalek that's the problem. They don't know that it's Edomites that's the problem. You know, that's why Jake will try to push for prison reform, or you know, business loans. They'll try to get laws passed because they think that, you know, it's just a few people that's off in the system. No, it's the whole system that's off. It's the people that created the system that's off, man, which is Esau Edom. You know, and our people, you know, they wander around in the same circle crying the same song. And now we get to the point where our people are going to be more confused than ever as the Lord is breaking this place down. That's why verse 3 says, therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in Egypt, all right, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt, your confusion. You know, because this man is finna have people all over the place, man. Because he's finna throw this new world order up, man. And it's gonna be extremely tacky. Okay, in the midst of that, man, he's gonna cause a lot of chaos. Okay, a lot of things that people depend on is gonna fail. Jobs, assistance. We see how much our people depend, on this government assistance, man. Okay, they depend on, these jobs. Okay, which we all, depend on some type of, job for income. But see, we know we coming to a time where we just gonna have to trust in our power, man. Okay, not having a job ain't the end. Okay, and we get built up in this belief in this truth, man, knowing that the Lord already got provision set up, man. When we are not able to go to work, when this place really shuts down. Okay, but our people, they trust in Egypt. Okay, they gonna come on in. Those that remain from the chaos. Okay, they're gonna bend the knee to this technology. Okay, with the promise of a new and better system, man. Okay, but now we know. Okay, then righteousness is only gonna come. True peace, true abundance. Everything we want is gonna come with Yahweh Shai. It's not of this world, man. You know, and that's the good news. You see, so when you go to 2 Peter 3:10, it said, "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the earth also and the works that are therein shall be burnt up." Okay, so we're coming into a time, where Yahweh Shai is finna wage war with this place, man. Because the nukes is gonna usher in Yahweh Shai when they hit the button, when this third world war goes nuclear. And these nations hit that button and shoot off them nukes, man. Yahweh Shai is coming in that exact moment. Okay? Yahweh Shai gonna come quickly, man. And this is what people are not expecting, man. People are going to be expecting some type of relief from the system that they trust in. Okay, and this destruction gonna come up on them as a thief in the night. Okay, because people are going to be scrambling trying to preserve their life. Okay, verse 11: seeing these things, seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, man? So what type of person are we to be? Okay, we know what the play is, man. Okay, and we're cleaving to our power, man. This is our purpose, man. Okay, the only thing that we should aspire to as Israelite men is being joint heirs with Yahweh Shai. Okay, and you women should be working towards being compatible with those men. You see, that's the only thing that matters. Because Yahweh Shai finna establish a righteous nation in the earth, man. Okay, it's gonna be fruitful and multiply in the kingdom, man. Which by default, that's gonna multiply righteousness, man. Okay. So what mindset should we be in, man? We should be in the mindset of tapped into what the Lord is getting ready to bring to the earth, the judgment, and then, all right, the reward. Okay, we should look at, the things that we got. We shouldn't be attached to anything, man. Okay, and we damn sure shouldn't be wasting time with things that don't matter. Okay, verse 12 said, "Looking for and hastening until the coming of the day of the Most High, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for a new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness," man. Okay, and this is our expectation, man. A whole new rulership, a refreshed earth, man. Okay, wherein dwelleth righteousness, which Yahweh Shai is bringing, man. You see, not this illusion, okay, of the American dream. Okay, and the devil finna repackage that with the sea hip. Okay, nah, man, we've outgrown that. Okay, it's time for something else, man. It's time for righteousness. Okay, so that's the point. Just want to get into that, Lord will. You brothers, all right, and you sisters edifying once again. Want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutation, hopefully, shalom.